Stella is an award-winning photo editor and a creative consultant, and she's worked with top-of-the-line magazines and newspapers, New York Times, Newsweek, Entertainment Weekly, People, Sports Illustrated, etc. Many photographers rely on Stella to help them sharpen their vision and really understand what it means to be a professional in terms of developing their portfolio and their website, and in a way fine-tuning what they show the public. All right. Stella has been awarded, along with the New York Times editors and writers, the 2002 Pulitzer Prize for Public Service, as well as the 2002 Infinity Award of Special Recognition from the International Center for Photography. And she also won the 2002 Pulitzer Prize for Breaking News Photography with her colleagues at the New York Times. Stella, one of the things that you really do so well is how you stay up to date. Everywhere I go, Stella's there, be it a screening, an opening, a lecture, a party. So well, especially the first three. No. And it's important in this day and age here in New York City to really stay up to date. So by having Stella here and having you share this hour with us, you will also be up to date. So it's a real honor and a privilege to welcome Stella Kramer.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your coming out today. And yes, I'm here for the air conditioning. So you're photographers. First thing that I'll say is I am not a photographer. I do not take pictures. I know nothing about cameras, lights, lenses, any of that stuff. But I am a photo editor, and I have been for years. I'm also a consultant. And what that means is that I work with photographers one-on-one. I help them to pull their work together to present the strongest reflection of their work and who they are. I help photographers to set and achieve their professional goals, and I help to edit and sequence their work. So that's my elevator pitch in a nutshell. Excuse me a second. My glasses. As photographers, you have to learn how to present not just your work, but yourselves. Because honestly, that's what it's all about. You have to sell yourself. As much as we don't like to think about it that way, that really is what it comes down to. The competition is extreme, the opportunities are less, and you need to find a way to stand out from the crowd, and part of that is who you are, not just your work. Unfortunately, though, I often ask photographers to talk about their work, and what I get from them is
wait, let me start again.
Or what I get are people saying that they're capturing memories with visual art influences to explore the meaning of important passions, whatever the hell that means. Art speak. So while you might believe that the images speak for themselves, the images do not speak for themselves, unless perhaps you have a magazine where you have a headline, you have caption information, you have a context, or you have work on a gallery wall and there's an art statement. Then the work might speak for itself, although it's not really speaking for itself. Otherwise, you have to be able to speak about your work articulately, with passion, and in a way that puts across who you are and who you want people to know you to be. Whether that's at a portfolio review, which in the trade among us reviewers is known as photography speed dating, you have a short period of time to make an impression. You're not going to, if you're at a speed dating event, not that you would be, and somebody says, well, tell me about yourself, and you go, I don't know, I'm a New Yorker, you know, I don't know. You're not getting a date. So if you sit down in front of a potential client, a portfolio reviewer, somebody who asks you a question at a party, and you act that way, you say, I'm a photographer, I take pictures of people. The person will walk away, they will have no impression of you. What you have to be able to do is really explain who you are. So my first question is, How many of you, before you started taking pictures or when you first started taking pictures, actually asked yourself why you were doing it? What did it mean to you? What was the reason you were taking pictures? Just because you can? You know, you have an iPhone, it's easy enough? Or is there some underlying message that you're trying to communicate through your work and that you're working through your creative vision in order to communicate with people? Most of the time, people just do things because they can. And so when they're asked about their work, they don't really know what to say and they don't know how to speak about it. Photography is not just about taking pictures, it's about relationships. The relationship you have to your work, the relationship between you and your clients, with the people you're shooting or the subjects that you're shooting, even if they're non-human. And I say that because there are a lot of people who do very intense projects photographing animals, and they have deep relationships with the animals they photograph. And it's also with everyone you come in contact with, because you never know who the person is that will advance your career. And if you live in New York, you are 1 or 2 people away from people who can make your career for you, because everyone knows somebody in the creative world here. Your friend of a friend, your friend's boyfriend, your roommate's sister, whatever it is. So it's very important that you think beyond just your photography. Therefore, don't be an asshole. That might go without saying, but I'm going to tell you a story because I would think that people would know these things. Don't insult people. Don't argue with them or yell at them when you're talking about your work. Don't make demands of them, because the world doesn't revolve around you. And you will get a reputation as an unfriendly person, and that will be very bad for your career. I was at a portfolio review a couple of years ago, and a woman came over, didn't introduce herself, sat down and said, "What are you going to do for me?" I looked at her and said, "Nothing." That's what I told her, and then I didn't say a word for the next 20 minutes, because most reviews are about 20 minutes long. She started showing me her work. I just sat there, didn't interact with her. I could not believe that that was the way that she thought she was going to make an impression on me. But she did. She made a bad impression on me. And I made a point of forgetting her work. I've also been in situations where I've been discussing the work with a photographer who then yells at me and tells me that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm wrong. And when I asked why they would pay money to sit with me just to tell me that, they had no answer to it. Another person whose work I immediately forgot. I warned the other reviewers about the photographer, and I've never seen the person's work anywhere. That's the truth of the matter. You don't want to help or promote or pass along information to people about somebody that you just don't want to be around, that isn't a person you want to interact with. So while you may think that your work is fantastic and that's all that should matter, be honest, it isn't. It's like everything else in the world. How you interact with people colors everything, and it will color the impact that your work will have and how far you will go. So I'm going to say a couple of things that might sound really old-fashioned and might sound really obvious, but I say them because so frequently people just don't do it. When you meet someone, shake their hand. If you're a woman, make sure you do that, and I don't mean like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" I mean a real handshake. It's a really important thing, and it's a really important thing for women because it sets the tone for your confidence, and it makes people realize that you're a professional and that you want to be a player in the world. Introduce yourself. Don't assume they know who you are. Have your elevator pitch. Can you describe your work in, a couple of sentences? If you can't, practice doing that. Speak with conviction. Don't have a very quiet voice. Don't say or like or all those things that you heard on that little audio bit. Because if you don't have conviction about your work, why should I? The opportunity to get past your own insecurities, your own nervousness, your shyness, if it's not going to be when you're presenting your work, then when is it going to be? Be nice to people. Really, be nice to people. Listen when people are talking to you about your work. Listen to them. You don't have to accept everything that people tell you, but you need to listen to what they have to say, because sometimes something that they say might click for you months down the line. And if you weren't listening, you're missing that opportunity. Engage people in conversation. Don't be afraid to ask the person that you're meeting with or that you're sitting in front of, ask them questions. Because you think your work is going to be the thing they remember. Honestly, it's you they're going to remember. And if they get a good feeling about you, then they'll remember your work. Because portfolio reviews, you see 12, 15 people in a row. If you're there for several days, after a while, even great work, it all blends together. But what you remember are the people you had a good time talking to. They were fun, they were funny, they were interesting, they were articulate. That's what you remember as a potential client or a photo editor who you're meeting with to try to get work, or as a reviewer. So now the other thing is presentation goes beyond just you and talking about your work, and it goes beyond just your work. It also gets into more things: your promotional materials, your business card, your website, your leave behinds. All of that stuff is part of the presentation of you and your work as a photographer. Always thank people for their time. Even if you've just been talking to somebody casually at a party or whatever, thank them for their time. Thank them for their interest. After portfolio reviews or when I speak to classes, I always am curious as to how many people I will hear from later on who will thank me and how they'll do it. Usually people will send an email, okay, that's nice and everything, but there are people who send handwritten cards, and that is worth its weight in gold. Because these days, old manners are hard to find, so if you use old manners, people remember you because you'll stand out from the hundreds or the dozens of people that they've met. I keep all those cards that people send me. I don't know why. It's not like I look at them and I read them and I think, oh, I'm so wonderful. It's that they took the time, the effort. I hold on to them. It means something to me. I have a little caricature somebody sent me, a photographer sent me. I don't know if you've heard of him, Larry Fink. We talked a lot on the phone. I tried to find a way to hire him. It never worked out. But he sent me this little note with a little caricature, and I still have it, and it's going on 18 years now. And it's in my file because it was the sweetest thing, and he was one of the only people who ever did that. So those things matter. We get so caught up in the future and all of this new technology and all these new ways of communicating, and honestly, the old ways of communicating really have impact. Actually talking to people instead of texting them or messaging them through Facebook or even sending emails, those things matter. They really leave impressions. And people who work in the photography world that you want to meet, gallerists, museum curators, art buyers, photo editors, we're all kind of old school. We probably use technology. I don't use it as much as most people do, but we still are old school in the fact that we like seeing prints. We like turning pages of portfolios. We don't want to see everything on a screen. We don't want to go like this through life. It just doesn't have the same kind of meaning. So old school ideas, old school ways of approaching things, regular, just normal things that you learn when you're a little kid really do matter. Okay, so I wanted to show you some promos and leave behinds that have both positive and negative aspects to them. I wanted to start out with this one because there's an idea among a lot of photographers that the more that you show, the more chance you have of making an impact. That is actually the opposite of reality. Because I would rather see one fabulous image than, I don't even know how many are here, 35 teeny weeny little things that have no impact to me. They have no meaning. They're badly color corrected or they're not color corrected at all. And they're so tiny that I get nothing from this, and then I totally don't get what this is about at all. It looks like it was photographed off of closed caption TV. Why would you do that? So this is an example of no. Somebody spent money and time and effort to do something that didn't make an impression on anyone they gave it to. And I guarantee you of that. Here's a different one along the same lines. I don't know what this person is trying to tell me. Why do you have this giant orange thing? I like orange. But would I hire someone because they can photograph an orange wall with a switch on it? I'd be more likely to be interested in their portrait work, but look how tiny that one is in the corner. This person also spent a lot of time, believe me, a lot of time choosing which images. And yet the same thing happens, which is you don't really get a sense of who the photographer is. And that's what the promo cards are about, leaving an impression of who you are with somebody so that they can tack it up on their wall, because most people who work in offices work in these ugly cubby holes. And if they work with photography, this is the sort of stuff they use as art around them to make their little area a little brighter. You might put that up there, but you're not really thinking about the photographer or hiring them. Here's another example where you have these really dense images, and there are really a lot of them. And the idea is to give you a sense of all of the project that they've done. But to me, what they've done here is they've given the whole project away, and yet they haven't presented it in a way that stays with me. It's small, and it's too dense. One image of this project would have been worth so much more than the 9 that are here. So decisions like this are really important. And a lot of photographers don't take the same concern for what they choose for their promo images as they do for other parts of their work. And I say that because when I was a photo editor at magazines, the first thing that made me start thinking about doing consulting was the fact that I would look at somebody's work, love their work, get to the back of the book to get a card, a promo to keep, and it would be like the worst image in their entire book. And I could never understand why they would choose those images and what would make people choose the wrong images. And what I found, it was mostly because they didn't think about it. They didn't ask people, what image do you like the best of mine? What do you respond to? They would just arbitrarily pick images. Here's another one. They're kind of pretty, but they don't say anything. They really don't say anything. So what would I come away with thinking this photographer does or is, or their aesthetic? I wouldn't really come away with anything from here. Here's an interesting example where you have a strong image, and then you have, I took the names out to protect the innocent. You have the information running up the side. So what I come to is, if I want to put this up, do I put it up this way, or do I put it up this way so I can read the information? Why would you do that? You have a border at the bottom. Why would you not put the information there so that if I put this on the wall in front of me, I'm staring at it day after day after day, and believe me, I'm thinking, when can I use this photographer? But as strange as it sounds, nobody wants to have to go like that. It's the truth, believe me. If you have a portfolio and you have images vertical and horizontal, nobody will do this to look at your book. They just won't. So you have to think about these things. Part of presentation is thinking about the other person. How do people view your work, not how do you view your own work? And not how does your family, your best friend, your lover, they're going to tell you wonderful things. You need to have outside opinions to find out how people view what you do, what they like in your work, what they think is the strongest, in order to make smart decisions about your own presentations. Now this one is really clever. It was shot for the New York Times. You see that on the top, so you get a sense, now this is a professional photographer. You have his name, his cell number, his URL. The one thing that's missing is his email address. Photographers always think, well, I have my website up there. The person can go to my website and get my email there. No, that's 3-4 more steps than I want to do in order to work with you. If I want to work with you, I want everything right there for me. I don't want to have to take the extra time, go to your website, and then a lot of people will have these forms on their website so they don't even have their email addresses. I've moved on to the next photographer. And that's the thing. You don't want to give a potential client a reason to move on to the next person. Because honestly, in this world, talent alone will not get you anywhere. It's the whole package. If talent alone got us places, the people in Congress would not be there. They would not be politicians. The president before Barack Obama would never have gotten into office. Britney Spears and J-Lo would not be multi-platinum multimillionaires. They're where they are because of drive, follow-through, presentation, package, everything but talent. Talent is secondary. You can find talent all over the place. What you can't find is the whole package. So that's more about not thinking only about yourself. You might think you're the greatest photographer, the most talented. You might see other people be successful and think, why them? I'm better than them. That has nothing to do with reality, and you're wasting your own time. What you need to do is seriously look at what you do, talk to people, see how they react to it, and try to think of it as if it's not your work and you're looking at it. How do you respond to it? Now, this is an interesting situation. This photographer sends out these postcards. Not too frequently, so he's not like a mail stalker. And by mail, I mean snail mail stalker. But what he does is he writes a little note on the back. And the little note always relates to the card. I mean, he sent this in February, around Valentine's Day. But it's the handwritten note that makes the difference. He made a human connection with everyone he sent the cards to. And I have a half dozen of the cards. And each one, it just has like 1 or 2 words, just a little thing, but it's handwritten. So it separates him from everyone else who sends promo cards. So everybody knows him because they're going, oh, did you get his newest card? Now, this is an interesting situation with promotion. This is the front and that's the back. This person is telling you who they are right there. Energy, strength, right in your face, not afraid to stand there and say who they are. The only thing missing is the email address. Once again, forgetting the email address is the #1 thing photographers do with their promo cards. And it drives me crazy. Now, this photographer, this was his original promo card. Yikes. I love his work. I love his work. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why he chose these images. I don't know what that's about. But then he put out that promo card. That has everything. It's got strong work that resonates when you look at the card. It has his email address, his URL, his name, his cell number. I can take that card and I can stick it right in front of my face, and everything is there for me. But it took him a while to get there. And what it took was interacting with other people and asking other people and seeing how other people reacted. Now, I have to admit, I've worked with him before, and I've been one of the people saying that to him, so it worked. Now, this card, fantastic image. I saw this photographer at a portfolio review. Wow, I was just wowed by this image.
Natan spoke here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did. That's right. Natan. But there's no information. Once again, do I pin the card up with the back that doesn't have the picture but has the info, or do I turn it to the photo and then I don't have the info? If you're leaving a border, why can't you put it there? It's not going to interfere with the image. And don't make the font so small that I can't read it even with my glasses, because that happens a lot. And don't make it like some pale gray so I really can't see it and I have to find a magnifying glass, because that makes me feel old and useless and terrible, and I don't care how good you are, I won't work with you. But that's the truth. You know, like I said, it's not all about talent. I would rather work with a slightly less talented person who I love being around, who I enjoy talking to, who I know I can rely on, who's great, who does great work on deadline, no problems with him, then the most talented prima donna asshole there is. Because it's not about the, I've worked with so-and-so, for me. For me, it's the exchange that you have with a creative person. It's a creative collaboration, and I want that to be the most fun that it can possibly be, not the most tedious and difficult. Now, leave-behinds. This is a leave-behind. I saw this body of work, and this was the leave-behind. It's gorgeous. Yes, that's right. Josephine Dvorkin. I met her at SVA. It's beautifully done. It's simple. It doesn't have to be huge. It tells you everything you need to know about this project, and it's got everything you need right in the back of it. It's something that I keep. I don't just say, oh, this is nice, I'll hold on to it for a while. I'm going to keep this. Like, this is just mine now. And I really appreciate that. She took a lot of thought, spent a lot of time really thinking it out in order to produce this, to leave this behind after I had looked at her work. This is a great one. On the other hand, there is this beautiful little handmade book that ties with a close. I saw this person's work at a portfolio review. Print after print after print after print after print after print after print. Boring as all get out. Beautifully printed, but the work just didn't warrant a stack like this, and it was a stack like this. I went through it, 20 minutes trying to find something to say to her about the work. Really had a hard time. And then before she left, she gave me this tiny little book with a couple of the images. I love this book. I love this. This I'm keeping. When I actually look at the work, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Nah, not my thing.
Not our student.
No, not your student. But I love this leave behind. So she made an impression. It's just not my cup of tea, the work. But I'm sure it resonated for other people. For a gallerist, a museum curator perhaps, not with me, but I will keep this because this is like the cutest little thing ever. So that's part of it also. What is the right way, the right size, the right thing to do as a leave behind? It doesn't have to be tiny. It can be like this. This is a mag cloud. This is fantastic. I cherish the fact that I have this because it's almost like having the person's portfolio. It's inexpensive, it's beautifully done, the paper is lustrous, it looks fantastic, and it's a great leave behind to remind me of the person's work. This is Stephen Mallon. So it can be like this, it can be like this, it can be anything, but does it serve the work well? This work, this industrial work, wouldn't work tiny. It would be no good that tiny. At the same time, this work, which is really a study of, it's like the old masters' fruit paintings, like a pear and two pears and a pear and an apple and two pears and two apples. Really, that's what the work is. That wouldn't have worked big. It worked small. So leave-behinds are another place that you make decisions about how you're presenting your work. Smart photographers spend time thinking about the best way to do it, the best size to do it. Should it be textured paper? Should it be mag cloud satin paper? Should it be big? Should it be small? Should it be handmade? All of those decisions will really play your work to the larger audience. And it's part of your presentation. It's part of this whole package of who you are and what you're trying to tell us about your work. So now I want to go to websites for the same reason. To the point, strong, clean, easy to navigate, Facebook button, all the information you can need, you could use. You want a website that reflects your work. You don't want to just find a cheap template, put your work up, and think that's okay. I have a personal hatred for black background websites. Well known. Everybody knows I hate them. I don't even like gray, because I feel that too frequently when people use black as a background, they're trying to add a gravity to their work because they think that that will help make their work deeper, more serious and important. But for someone like me, it makes me go, oh, that's what they're trying to do. It never helps. And that doesn't mean they're not fabulous photographers with black background websites, because there are. I just personally don't like it. I like white. I feel that the work jumps off white much better than on dark backgrounds. So here's another website. Clean, big opening image. If you go to the About page, you get a sense of what this photographer does from his personal photo as well. There's more writing here than I usually think works out, but if you have a really strong background with what you're doing, it can be warranted. But at the same time, it's clean, it's easy to read, everything you want to know is there. And this is his blog. It's terrific. It carries on, for me, it carries through the idea that he shoots strong, clean imagery. So with your website, it's not just the website. If you have a blog attached to it, it's going to be what your blog looks like. It's going to be what your blog has to say as well. It's also going to be, how do I find you? Do I find you in Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or Google Plus or Instagram? Can I access them from your site in case I want to see that as well? This is Stephen Mallon again. You know what he does. Here it is. Couldn't be stronger. Clean, inviting. If I had to shoot an airplane or a giant ship, I'd want him to do it, or machinery, because it looks fantastic. It's heroic. I don't know if you know this photographer, Theron Humphrey. You might know his project, Maddie on Things. Theron did a project where he went around the country and photographed people every single day. He went to every state. Along the way, he had a coonhound dog as his companion, and he started finding out that he could put his dog on all kinds of things. He started posting those. That became a huge viral hit. But this is a beautiful website. What the Maddie project did was lead to something he's doing now called Why We Rescue, which is he's photographing people with their rescue animals. So he's taking the portraiture from his trip, the animal, and it's come together. It's clear what you can see. You can click on anything. I couldn't take a picture of the entire screen. I'm sorry about that. But basically, whatever you want to know is right there, and that is Theron and Maddie. This is a photographer, an art photographer. Also, just clean, gives you a place to literally dive into her work. I think that's a really clever opening. And as you can see, her categories are different because she's an art photographer. So she has names for them as opposed to subject matter. But it doesn't matter because I know what to do here. I know where to go. I understand what she's trying to tell me. Same thing with this photographer. Lifestyle. There we are. Strong images, different, colorful, sort of in your face, which is part of the energy that she's trying to project. And this is a different example where you have like a sort of grid where you can go anywhere you want and it's all very obvious for you. So there is not one way to do anything. There are a myriad of ways. It's choosing the right way for you and for your work. And each one of those photographers have chosen the right way to promote their work, which doesn't mean that they might not change it at some point, because everybody evolves. Everybody decides to do things differently. You grow, you change, you're influenced by things. But if you start out, when you put your website up, you want it to be a reflection of you, not just, oh, I had to do a website, so I found this really cheap thing and I just threw it up there and I'll change it somewhere along the line. I hear that a lot. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. And honestly, if it doesn't change, if somebody looks at your site once, they're not going to go back if it isn't strong. If they go back and it hasn't changed, there's no new work, you haven't fixed the design of it or the navigation of it, they will not return. They will move on to the next photographer. At the same time, as we have these certain very clean and clear ways of presenting yourself, there are exceptions to the rule. If you are a singular, very quirky, very unusual photographer, as Chris Buck is, nobody photographs like Chris Buck. So Chris Buck has a website like nobody else's. It works for him because it sets him apart, and he is that singular, an editorial photographer. He's got a very unusual way of looking at the world. So he has a very unusual way of putting up a website. So once again, there is no one rule, but if you're not that singular, something like that isn't going to work for you because the symbols are going to start confusing people and they're not going to go into it. Here is an example of like a really, really bad website. All I had to do is put it into Google, bad website.
So sad.
What can I say? It's everything that's wrong with photography in the sense of people who think that they're professional photographers but really aren't. They're just people who take pictures. And maybe they've made a business out of it. Maybe they haven't. It's hard to know. But honestly, I could take these pictures, and I can't take pictures. So the different typefaces, the black background, the I don't know what it is you photograph, whatever all that stuff is down there, whatever's going on along the bottom, it's just not working. This one is even worse. I don't get this at all. I found this and it was just like so strange to me. Like, it makes me want to make that curtain go away so I could see the photo. Like, I don't understand what all that information is and that you think I'm actually going to go into that. When what I want to see is a photograph and what I'm seeing is all of these things. Hey, you, welcome, have a seat. Why? Why would I have a seat? I want a photo. So that's something to think about. If you're a photographer, I want a photo. I don't want words. I don't want descriptions. I don't want information except in an acceptable way, which is contact info, this is how I reach you. I don't want to have your philosophy written around your work. I definitely don't want sound, but I'm sure you all know that. And I don't want clicking sounds either, which I still find on websites, and it's shocking to me. And then we have the dreaded black background, which, just to illustrate my point, depressing, sad, bad. It's like, I don't want to get out of bed kind of stuff. I'm going to pull the shades and live in darkness forever. This is not something that invites me in and makes me want to explore. And it isn't just based on the work. It's the whole thing. It's the package. And yes, this person chose to do this. But honestly, this was a person who didn't want to hear what anyone else had to say. This is a person that is convinced of their own greatness. And no matter what anybody tells them, it doesn't work for them. I worked with a photographer recently who I had worked with previously, who hired me in a panic because she had actually been working with another consultant. I thought that was an interesting thing to tell me. And in the 3 months they had been working together, she didn't have anything to show for it. She was freaking out. She wanted a website up. She wants something. Can I help her? So, being a nice person, because I am a nice person, I accommodated her in a way that, in retrospect, I should never have done. I began working with her. I did an edit for her in about 3 days, sent it off to her, and she calls me up and she goes, "But I don't like it." And I said, "Well, okay, were there some things I left out that you'd like in? Usually what I send to you is a preliminary edit. You mention a photo you really like, I work it back in, we go back and forth on this." No, I don't like what you did." Okay, well, it's subjective, you know, all art is subjective. If you show it to someone else, they would do it a different way. If you like your way of doing it, which is what's on your site right now, then that's fine, just keep it. But I paid you. Well, yeah, and I gave you an edit in 3 days, which is something this other person hadn't done in 3 months. I don't understand what the problem is, but I don't like it. What can I say? That's somebody who thinks that the world is revolving around them. That's somebody who wants me to pat them on the head and tell them how terrific they are. I am not a shrink. I'm not their mother. But this is something that I run into, unfortunately, more frequently than I'd like. I had to just sort of cut this person off, and then that's the end of it for me. I work with another person who felt that I had not given them everything that I said I would. We met a half dozen times, had ample opportunity to discuss anything, but hadn't brought anything up, these specific things up, hadn't brought them up in any of the discussions we had, and couldn't understand why I wasn't willing to do more work for him. Another situation, the world revolves around him. I should be willing to do anything, anytime, always. I've had people email me on, I have had people where I've met with them on Friday, they email me on Saturday, they call me Sunday afternoon because they didn't hear back from me because they emailed me on Saturday. I was planning on waiting till Monday, but then those people don't think that I should only, they think I should be working 7 days a week, 24/7 for them. You know, that's another problem. So when you work with somebody, whether it's an editor in a magazine, whether it's an art buyer, whether it's a gallerist, whether it's somebody who wants to re-edit your work for presentation on their gallery walls or their museum walls or whatever it is, you have to think of the other person and not yourself. That doesn't mean you can't have dialogue, but you can't expect these people you're working with to be at your beck and call, to do only what you want, as if they have no expertise, they have no background to be making changes or choices that they make. That it's all about you, because it isn't. So when you're presenting, just to sort of go back to what I was saying, it's you, it's your work, it's your website, your portfolio, your promotional material. It's how you interact with people. If you're applying to a gallery, most likely you go to the gallery online, you see what their submission policies are, and yet people just ignore that. I have a friend who is an assistant director at a big gallery, and one day she's there and a photographer shows up with a portfolio and says, "Can I show you my work?" And she goes, "Well, we have instructions on the website, which is you submit JPEGs." He's like, "Oh yeah, I know about that, but I'm here, so won't you look at my work?" Just because you think you're fantastic and special and wonderful doesn't mean that the rules don't apply to you too. Because she's busy. You interrupted her day. It's not like she's sitting there waiting for a photographer to show up to show the work. She's got things to do, and yet this photographer thinks he's too important for that. You don't want to be the person that doesn't listen to the rules. That doesn't mean you can't break rules, because I'm a big believer in breaking rules, but you don't break rules at the expense of another person, because that shows that you're just thinking about yourself. You have to realize that other professionals, be they gallerists, assistant directors of galleries, directors of galleries, museum curators, art buyers, production people, anybody you're going to come across working with, they are professionals too. And it's a reciprocal relationship. They are not there to serve you. When I was a photo editor at magazines, we used to have this little joke. We had to work with editors. That's another thing photographers don't realize. When you work in a magazine, a newspaper, you're not the end-all be-all as the photo editor. You have to show the work either to your director or to the other editors. And frequently, they make decisions that you don't agree with, but what can you do? You're not the top of the totem pole, so you don't get to be the final say sometimes. So sometimes pictures run that you don't like, that you don't think are the best, but the photo editor is the one who takes the flack from the photographer, because they don't realize that I have to answer to someone else. So I have gotten phone calls ripping me apart for my horrible choice of photography. And when I explained that I wasn't the one who made the decision, It was the executive editor who knows nothing about photography, who decided he liked a picture because the person was wearing a color he liked. And believe me, that happens. The photographer was simply thinking about themselves. So I know I've gone over that point many times, but really, how often in your life are you thinking about somebody other than yourself when you're interacting with them? Be they your friend, your family, your significant other, someone you run into on the street, or whatever. It really requires a certain personality or a personality change. And honestly, if you need to make the personality change, it's going to only benefit you. It is. It really is. Because it's better to be known as a nice person, a person that you like interacting with, than somebody who's a pain in the ass or rude or uninterested in anyone beyond themselves. That won't help your career. What will help your career is being someone that's nice so that the person you deal with says to their friend, wow, I just met this really nice photographer, who then says to their friend, hey, I know this really nice photographer, who then says to their friend, oh, you were looking to hire a photographer, here's the name of a really nice photographer. And that's how it happens. Whether that's getting on the walls of a gallery, whether that's getting an ad campaign, whether that's getting a spread in a magazine or a newspaper. That's how it happens, because art buyers know art buyers, photo editors know photo editors, gallerists know gallerists, and we all know each other. So the good gets passed around and the bad gets passed around. And believe me, if there's a bad rep to you, it's not going to help your career. Because, as I said at the beginning, if talent alone made the difference, the world would be a fabulously better place than it is. Movies would be better. They would not be all remakes and superheroes. Music would be better. It wouldn't be all whatever the hell it is, because I can't even listen to it. So I want to, well, this was the last one I was going to show you. It's the same as the others. It's nothing. Yeah. But you see, this is, in a sense, this is the competition. People who can take pictures, because pretty much anyone can take a picture these days. The cameras just pretty much do it for you. You can put any kind of a filter to make it look better. You can wipe things out of it completely. There's so much you can do, but that's not what a professional photographer is about. But that doesn't mean that those people are not your competition. The difference is showing why you're a professional and why that is not professional. And I will leave you with one sad story. It came out today that the Chicago Sun-Times fired their entire photo department, which means they let go of at least 20 staff photographers and any photo editor or any assistant photo editors that they had. They now say that the reporters can just take iPhone pictures and they'll just work with freelancers. So it's not an easy world out there. But that does not mean that there are not photographers that are succeeding and are becoming well known and are having their work in books and on gallery walls and in magazines and everything else. It just means you have to work harder to make sure that what you're pulling together reflects who you are, and you have to have the confidence to get over your own insecurities about talking to people, your own shyness about looking people straight in the eye and projecting yourself. And you have to learn how to do it if you really, really want to have a career. Because I do believe it's possible, it's just not easy. So with that, thank you all very, very much.
You said that an email address is important to always have on the leave behind. What about a telephone number on a website, on a card?
Oh, that's fine too.
I mean, but...
You mean one or the other?
I mean, can you leave off a phone number?
You know, honestly, I'm not sure I can answer that. I'm one of the few people you will ever know without a cell phone. So I can only assume that cell phones are really important for people because people text each other before they email each other. Yeah. But this is only what I read about. I don't really know the experience of that. So I would say that more likely You want to have both for the old people like me who would email, and for everybody else who would text, so they're going to want to know what your phone number is.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Hi, Stella.
Hi.
You mentioned the website, and I've always been curious about your thoughts about whether it should be one major photograph and whether the change of that photograph, should it be quarterly, or do you have any feeling about that, as
Well-
opposed to a number of photographs?
Well, you know, it depends. And it really is going to be something where you're going to have to really look at your work in both contexts. Sometimes grids work really well. If your work can be seen in the size of a grid, you know, if people shoot crowds, it's not going to work if you're doing little grids of pictures. So that's going to determine it. I like big images. I like to have an image to look at. I hate slideshows that play automatically, that I can't figure out how to stop it or control it. A lot of the companies that you get websites from do that, and I think that's really bad, because everyone I know, photo editors and art buyers, want to be able to control looking at the images. How often you change things depends on how much you're shooting, but it should generally, I think, like every 3 months or so, you should add something new in, because what it does is it gives you an opportunity to mass email people and say, hey, I've got new work, look at my site. And every opportunity to promote yourself, to re-establish contacts with somebody that you've met or shown your work to, is an opportunity to advance yourself. If you don't change your website, you can't tell them to go back and look at it, so your website becomes ineffective. But at the same time, you have to be shooting some new stuff. And some people, because they're working or family or other commitments, they find it more difficult to shoot for themselves. You have to carve the time out. You know, even if it's an hour every other Saturday, you've got to be shooting for yourself, regardless of whatever work you're doing, whether it's photography related or not, so you can make changes into your website. And also because, assumedly, your photography will grow and change. The more you shoot, the more clear you get, the more ideas you get. So that alone will give you more material to put on the website. And it's okay to take stuff off, to rotate work in and out. Because a lot of times photographers can't let go of what's on there, so they just add more to it. And you don't want a website that's so dense that people don't want to look at it, you know, where every category has 50 pictures in it, and somebody starts looking and they're like, I can't deal with this. Because that's what happens. Our attention spans are not great anymore. And honestly, people in the business that you want, potential clients that you want, they're too busy to spend that kind of time. And you don't want it to be like the first 5 images are fantastic and then it like goes like this. Because then why do you have 50 images? So these are all things that you have to figure out. You have to look at other websites so that you can see what you think works well and what doesn't. And if it works well, would it apply to you or not? You have to ask people, other photographers, friends of yours, people that you've just met. They're really good because they don't have any emotional connection to you. So they're not going to tell you necessarily what you want to hear. But it might take a while to figure out what the right balance, the right mix. That might take time, you know, but part of it is also your maturing as a photographer, as an artist. And it comes with time if you want it to. Any other questions?
On the website, with the new technology, if I'm shooting motion with the camera and also, is it better to have an outtake image with a link to, say, Vimeo, or a small snippet of the actual motion work within the context of the website?
Well, I'd keep it on the website because you want people not to leave your website to go somewhere else because you don't know that they'll come back. So if you have a snippet on the website and maybe the longer version is on Vimeo and there's a link, that's probably better, because that keeps them on your site. It gives them the choice of whether they want to leave to see a longer version. And it also allows them to know from being on your website that you do motion work, which is becoming more important, but I would not tell all of you to suddenly start learning how to do it, because you should only do it if you want to. If you don't want to, don't do it. Because if you're just going to do it because you think you should, you're going to have a steep learning curve, it's not going to be very good, and you're going to give it up, and you're going to get really depressed, and then you won't shoot, and then you lose your house, you know, everything else. Really, I mean, I'm a big believer in doing what you want to do and not being convinced to do things just because people say you should. Rather be the best that you can be as a still photographer than be a mediocre motion photographer. Because as much as you think you've seen way too many images in the world, and we all have, you will start seeing way too much really bad video shortly, if you haven't already. So you don't want to be that. You want to be good at what you do and good at something that you care about. Because that's the other thing. If you're not really excited about doing the work, then get another job. Because it's hard to do these things. It's hard to be a photographer. If you're not going to be excited about being a photographer, if you're going to be like, well, I really love shooting, but I hate doing video, but I'm doing video because I have to do video because everybody says you have to do it, you know, you're going to really not be happy in life. And seriously, it's just not worth it. It is not worth it. And it's never worth doing things just because people tell you you should. I don't believe in that. I believe the decision has to be yours, even if it runs against everything everybody else believes. Because in the art world, and you are in the art world, whether you're an art photographer or not, there are so many people that don't get noticed till later on in life. There are people who don't get noticed till after they're gone. That's not what I'm suggesting. But at the same time, it's better to do things that you want to be doing. Because then you could live with yourself. You can look at yourself in the mirror. You know? Otherwise, honestly, I don't want to see photography I don't want to start meeting lots of photographers who hate being photographers. Because, you know, that's awful. You'd be better off, really be better off doing something else. Any more questions? Comments? Yeah? Oh. I think we have to run all the way around. Oh, yeah, get behind the camera. I got you. Oh, I'm sorry. If you'll wait, there's someone in the back.
Yes. Do you have a preference or your opinion on a photographer's website, their URL? Should it be their name or a memorable words?
Good question. Always your name. Because the first thing people do is they Google you. And you don't want to be the person that they're like, is that person? Or is it that person? Like, who is it? You don't want that. Your name should be, you should buy your name as your domain name. And if you haven't done that, you have to find a way, or if somebody else has bought it, if you have a name that other people have, you have to find a way to take it back, even if it's, you know, Gene Smith 1, whatever it is. Because I'm not gonna know to look for you if your site is called Wonderful Photos Inc. Because I don't put that into Google. And you don't want, you know, I want to put your name in and find out who you are. And that's the other reason, because your name will connect you if somebody's written about you, if someone's mentioned you somewhere else, if you've got LinkedIn, if you've got this and that, it's going to come up with your name. It's not going to come up otherwise, because I'm not going to use the words that you use. So really, don't do that. Don't do that. A lot of people do it. I don't know why. Okay.
I actually have a lot of questions, but
Sorry.
but I'll keep it to one.
Only one, yeah.
I work in a magazine department, and I very much admire one of the people who works there, and I was wanting to get her input on stuff, but she's in a very high position, and I've been hesitant to contact her. And I've helped her out on a few things, so I'm thinking, well, at least she knows who I am. But I don't know how to take that next step without, you know, you were talking about consider the other person, but at the same time, don't be too shy. Well, I'm trying to figure out, I've been, you know, thinking about the best way to do that.
Well, I believe that you should always ask the question of someone else. The worst that can happen is they don't have time for you or they say no. It's not going to kill you. You work with her, so you sort of know her schedule, right? You know when she's really busy or you don't. Well, then really it might take more than one approach. It might take making a, you know, sending her an in-house email and saying, you know, I'd love to meet with you, something like that. She doesn't get back to you. Maybe you go up to her office and you leave a note for her. You know, when I worked at the New York Times, I worked on the newspaper, and the magazine is its own universe. And I decided, since I was working there, I might as well meet Kathy Ryan, because why not? And I thought maybe she, you know, figured she had probably heard my name or something. So I made an appointment to meet her. I got in front of her, and she had no idea why I wanted to meet her. It was really weird, really uncomfortable. But so what? Honestly, so what? You should find a way to make contact. If it doesn't work the first time, wait a little. Try the second time. One way or another, you will end up connecting with her because you work in the same place. So don't be afraid to do it. The thing about thinking about someone else, the reason I say that is because you don't want to be a stalker. And people do that. They'll start sending like an email every week, and then they'll send you an email asking you why you didn't answer the first email. I have that happen. That is not what you want. And that's not thinking about the other person. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to meet someone and trying to do it. It may or may not work, but the fact that you're already there gives you a better chance, because she will know your name. You have worked with her. So you can just ask her if you can buy her coffee. In magazines, at about 3:30, it's the time for coffee. If you show up at her office, let's say with a cup of coffee, and say you had brought her a cup of coffee, that might get you in. You know, you can ask her assistant how she likes her coffee. No, I'm really serious. Why not? Because every magazine I worked at, 3:30 was the time that someone did a coffee run and or sweets. When I first started working in the Time Inc. company, they used to have a dessert cart that showed up at 3:30 on the dot. Everybody left their desk to go to it, buy coffee and some kind of a sweet thing. So that might be it. I mean, you know, be inventive. There's no reason why you can't do something really inventive. What's the worst that can happen? If it's not going to kill you or put you in Guantanamo, what's the big problem? So somebody says no, or they're weirded out that you wanted to talk to them. So what? You know, it didn't ruin my life that Kathy Ryan didn't understand why I wanted to say hello to her. What do I care? You know, I made a try because I wanted to do it. You know, so be bold enough that if you want to, try it out. The worst that happens is it doesn't work, so you wait a little while, you try it again. Because you should never take no as the final answer. You should wait till you hear it a second time. Seriously. Because you might be contacting someone when they're busy, they're sick, their child is sick and they have to run, they're overwhelmed with work, whatever it is, so they don't have time for you. That doesn't mean a little bit down the line they won't have time for you. But if you're immediately put off because they say no, like photographers will send out promos, they won't hear from anyone, and they'll just go, oh, they hate my work, everyone hates me. Maybe everybody you sent things to were on vacation. How do you know? Until someone looks you in the eye and says, leave me alone, I hate you, I hate your work, don't believe it to be true. It's okay to have a sort of inflated sense of yourself in that way, that you're good enough, that you have a right to do that you should be contacting them. And that if they don't accept it and they don't want to meet with you, okay, that doesn't mean they won't a little bit down the line. You had a question.
One last question.
I have several, but
once
I'm talking
again.
to you tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask, in terms of prioritizing money, aside from portfolio and website, expenditure on things like promotion, competitions, like printing things versus submitting to competitions, going to portfolio reviews. If you only have like a limited pool of money to do that with, how would you prioritize that?
Don't enter competitions. There are very few that really have value for you, but there are thousands of them, and they're just money-making ventures. So before you even think about doing a competition, see what's happened to the winners, and if nothing's happened for them, don't even do it. That's the thing I'd say about competitions. Portfolio reviews, it is an issue of money. So you might have to save up to go to one that you want to go to. But there are a lot of free ones in the city here. You just have to find them, whether it's part of a professional organization like APA or ASMP, or the schools have them, or whatever. So you can get portfolio reviews for free here in the city. You probably can in other ways. And I will say this, although I'm also a member of this, but there is this thing called IIST, which is an online portfolio review service, which has top-notch people. It might be more in your budget to do it that way, so that's something to consider. You know, money gets in the way of everything. It's really true. So you have to really, what you need to do is plot out what it is you want to do and see what you can do first with little money. And then if you want to save up for a portfolio review, maybe that's a good thing to do, but you can do that less expensively. There are a lot of ways to do things less expensively, and with the web, promotion is really cheap now. You know, you can get things done really inexpensively. So there's probably something for every budget, and if you really have no money, it just means you have to be that much more inventive and that much more clever about how you let people know about you. I mean, there have been people who paper the city with little cards of their work, and then everybody ends up seeing their work. I don't know, there's all kinds of things you can do, and you can do it inexpensively. You just have to be more creative. And with that, I think we're finished. Thank you.